Hello everyone, welcome back to my German language course for the beginner levels A1, A2. This is a German grammar series, and in this lesson we are going to talk about irregular verb conjugations in present tense in German. So you remember last lesson we spoke about regular verbs and what conjugation endings they take, and I also promised you to provide you with the solutions to the exercise of the last lesson. So you might remember at the end of the lesson about regular verb conjugations, I gave you a small gap text here where the conjugation endings were missing, and here I'm giving you the solutions. Wir wohnen in Berlin. Ich lerne Deutsch. Kochst du gern? Sie machen ihre Hausaufgaben. Trinkt ihr Kaffee oder Tee? Und er lebt jetzt in Deutschland. So actually the verb stems were already provided. I wanted you to really focus on identifying the correct conjugation endings because that is all that actually changes with regular verbs in present tense. So please write down in the comments below how many out of those 6 you actually got correct. And we will continue today by contrasting regular verbs with irregular verb conjugations. And please bear in mind, when I speak about regular and irregular, that is not pertinent to the verb itself. When I say regular or irregular, that usually pertains to that verb in a particular tense. So if a verb is regular in present tense, it might still be irregular in past tense. And if it is irregular in present, it might be regular in the way it forms its participle. Okay, so regular and irregular is nothing that is firmly attached to the verb. It might change depending on which tense we're looking at. Okay, so please bear in mind all of the irregularities I'm explaining to you today are particular to present tense irregularities. Okay, good. Let's start. As you already know from the regular verb conjugations, what we need to do is to identify the verb stem, which we get by eliminating the en ending from a German infinitive, and then we add the conjugation endings. However, what is different about irregular verbs is that the verb stem of irregular verbs contains a vowel change in the second and third person singular forms. And I will show you now what exactly this looks like. Okay? Oh, that was too far. Let's scroll up again. Okay, so let's look at the upper part here first. I have written down here for you 3 German irregular verbs, irregular in present tense, mind you. Geben, to give. Please speak after me. Geben. Nehmen, to take. Nehmen. And lesen, to read. Lesen. Okay. What all of these 3 verbs have in common is that the vowel that they contain in their verb stems, so geb, nehm, and les are the verb stems here respectively, they contain a vowel change for the du and er, sie, es forms, so for the second person singular and third person singular, corresponding to you and he, she, it. So looking at the verb geben, for example, the I we see here changes to I in the second and third person. So we conjugate it as ich gebe, du gibst, er gibt, wir geben, ihr gebt, sie geben. So what is already important for you to consider is that for the plural forms, wir, ihr, sie, those irregularities do not occur. And they normally also do not occur for the ich forms. Only in rare exceptions do they actually also change the verb stem in the ich forms. But when we talk about those vowel changes, they are exclusively applicable to the du and er, sie, es forms. So geb changes to gib for du and er, sie, es. Now when we look at nehmen, for example, nehm changes its entire stem for du and er, sie, es. So ich nehme becomes du nimmst, er, sie, es nimmt, and back to regular for plural. Wir nehmen, ihr nehmt, sie nehmen. Okay? Read after me, please. Ich nehme, du nimmst, er, sie, es nimmt. Okay? We have a vowel change from I to I. And then sometimes, as is the case with lesen, the stem not only changes to I, it changes to IE. Okay, but the sound is the same. IE also sounds like a very long, stretched E. So when we conjugate this one, we will say, ich lese, du liest, sie es liest. Wir lesen, ihr lest, sie lesen. And now you might ask yourself, why did she mark this T here in green and where is actually the S? Because normally, as you know, for the second person singular conjugation that ends in an ST, why is that not the case here? Maybe you already know it. If you do, please write it down in the comments below. If you don't, please watch the next lesson, because I will explain exactly this type of irregularity in lesson number 4. So, within the category of irregular verbs that change their stem, the stem vowel from E to I or from E to IE, we also have these verbs here, also in this category, very important verbs. To speak, sprechen, changes to du sprichst und spricht for second and third person. Essen, to eat, ich esse, du isst, isst. Sehen, to see, ich sehe, du siehst, sieht. And vergessen, to forget. Ich vergesse, du vergisst, vergisst. They all follow the same logic. But of course you will need to study them individually, which of those are actually irregular and which are regular, because there are, of course, regular verbs with an E in their stem. So they will not have the change we spoke about here. So whether or not a verb is regular or irregular needs to be studied individually. I'm very sorry about that. And then we have another very typical vowel change for irregular verbs, where A, the way we pronounce this vowel in German is A, changes to its umlaut with 2 dots on top, which is pronounced as ä. So please speak after me. A, ä, A, ä. Okay, and also this vowel change only occurs for du and sie es. It does not apply for ich and the plural forms. So here we have the infinitives fahren, to drive, schlafen, to sleep, and tragen, which means to carry or also to wear in terms of clothing. Okay, so here we will change the vowel A in the stem to ä for du and sie es. So we conjugate. Ich fahre, du fährst, fährt. Now, of course, when you actually speak, you're not going to overly stretch it like I do now. We don't say ich, du fährst. We just say du fährst, du fährst. Okay, so I'm exaggerating a bit here so you can pronounce after me. Same for schlafen. Ich schlafe, du schläfst, schläft. Ich trage, du trägst, trägt. And another very important verb in that category is the verb waschen, to wash, okay, or to wash yourself, to wash clothing, to wash the dishes, anything. Waschen becomes wäscht, or du wäschst for the second and third person singular, okay? So I want you to remember some irregular verbs change from E to I, or E to IE, and some change from A to but not every verb that has A in its stem will automatically change, only if it belongs to the category of an irregular verb. And whether or not that is the case, you need to study individually. And then there is also what did I do? There are also some extra categories or exceptions because not many verbs actually fall into these categories here. When we have verbs that contain au, they will change to oi. Okay, so we have 2 vowels together, a and u. They will change into ä and u, and when we pronounce those together, they sound like oi, oi. Okay, so that needs to be learned by heart. When we conjugate laufen, to walk, to run, the stem, which actually is lauf, changes to läuf for du and sie es. Ich laufe, du läufst, sie es läuft, wir laufen, ihr lauft, sie laufen. And then lastly, the verb to know seems to be entirely irregular in singular, so I marked all of it red. Even the conjugation endings are irregular here. So the stem vis, okay, changes to weiß for singular. So you will say, I know, you know, he knows. Ich weiß, du weißt, er, sie, es weiß. So this letter here actually looks very much like a B, but it is nothing else than a double S. Okay, it sounds like a very sharp and pronounced S sound, and it's just a matter of spelling. Okay, so actually double S, or this one which is called SZ. Okay, the name of this letter is SZ. They used to be applied interchangeably, but since the last reform of orthographical spelling, this is how we need to write it. Okay, so we will conjugate wissen, ich weiß, du weißt, er, sie, es weiß, wir wissen, ihr wisst, sie wissen. So, as you can see, irregularity applies to the verb stem. A verb is considered irregular in a given tense if its verb stem changes. Okay, I'm highlighting this because we also sometimes have irregularities in the conjugation endings. This has nothing to do with regular or irregular, and that is going to be the topic of our next lesson. So please watch that one also if you would like to understand more about that. But before I can end this lesson, of course, I need to give you more exercises, right? Exercises are very important. This is similar to some exercises I gave you previously. I am providing you here with the infinitive forms in brackets behind the gap, and I want you to conjugate this infinitive based on first, second, and third person singular or plural. Okay, so you need to identify who is the subject of our sentence. Do we actually have a vowel change in the verb stem, or do we not? Because it only applies to you and he, she, it, right? And of course, because I do not expect you to understand each and every single element of the sentences here, you haven't studied most of the grammar in these sentences yet, and you also don't know all of the vocabulary in here. That's why I provide you with the English translations. So please use that in order to build your passive vocabulary. Understand the sentences, but you don't need to understand every single aspect of them. Okay, focus on the correct verb conjugations and whether or not the stem needs to be changed in terms of the vowel that it contains. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And like last time, I will give you the solutions to this exercise at the beginning of our next exercise. And also, if you would like to have this lesson material here, I can send you this PDF material if you send me an email to my email address, which you see on the screen now, or you will also find it in the info box below. So just send me any informal email saying, hey, I would like to have your lesson material. Then I will take you into my mailing list, and every time I publish a new lesson, you will get the PDF material to that lesson on the day it gets published here. Okay, so please just write me there if you are interested. And thank you very much once again for watching. I appreciate your interest. Please let me know your feedback in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you like. And I will see you again in the next lesson. Tschüss, Dankeschön.